lesbian necromancers in space, which, got it, I'm in already. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Just Another Struggling Writer, the beleaguered author's one-stop shop for commiseration and hopefully inspiration. My name is Carrie Scher, and I am just another struggling writer. Today I am bringing you my April TBR, and I have to admit I am pretty excited about this one. If you're new here, I construct my monthly TBRs in a very specific way. Basically, I have 6 specific categories that I would like to fill with at least one book. I have found that doing it this way actually motivates me more to keep reading. It's almost like giving myself an assignment to work towards. My 6 categories are series continuation, library reads, non-fantasy, because fantasy is my favorite genre and I'm trying to extend myself beyond it, a new release, something that came out within the last 3 months, my free choice, and then my favorite part, a completely random draw out of my TBR Mimic. I am also adding a 7th stretch goal this month, which is a reread. This is to help me refresh myself on some series that I started more than 4 or 5 years ago, and I need a refresher course on before I get into the 2nd and 3rd installments of the series. So first up, we have my series continuation, and I will admit I am cheating a little bit on this one because I've technically already started it. I actually started it in February, and I have just been struggling to get through it because I am listening to it on audio, and I don't know what, but it has really been hard to listen to audio lately. But that is The Court of Mortals. This is the 3rd book in the Stariel series by A.J. Lancaster, and this is a cozy fantasy romance following a young woman named Hedda who returns back to her family estate after her father passes away, and the estate is unique in that it is magical and it picks its successor. It isn't something that is handed down by choice. Everything gets blown up in the first book when she's kind of living in informal exile. She doesn't really get along with her family that well, and she's kind of looked at as like a black sheep. But of course, all of that gets turned on its head when she is chosen to be the Stariel successor, and everything goes haywire from there. This is the 3rd book in the trilogy, so I can't get too much into spoilers, and I'm about 25% of the way through it already. Like I said, I have been trying to read this since February, and for some reason, I'm just not really inclined to listen to anything on audio. I am going to try and finally get over the hump though this month by formally putting it on my TBR. So, series continuation, Court of Mortals by A.J. Lancaster. Next up, for my library pickup, I have chosen The Foxglove King by Hannah Whitten. I don't know too much about it, but I did read For the Wolf by Hannah Whitten last year, and I thought it was okay. The writing was fine, so I'm not disinclined to read it. And I've heard a lot about it. My library doesn't really have that robust of a science fiction fantasy section, so I have to just kind of pick what's there. So this appears to be about a young woman who is making her living as a poisoner when she is captured by the king and basically given a job that she must accept or, face punishment for her crimes as a poisoner. So I think this could be really interesting. It's really pretty, which I, always appreciate. And it's really chunky. It's not super chunky. It's 450 pages. So not too bad in terms of length. Definitely something I can knock out over a cozy reading weekend. For my non-fantasy choice, I have chosen Caliban's War by James S.A. Corey. This is the 2nd in the Expanse series. I read the first one in February and thought it was okay. Kind of had its ups and downs, but most importantly, I thought the plot was really good and the setting was really good, and I am interested in continuing. So I couldn't think of any other non-fantasy reads to pick up this month. I'm really struggling with horror, and my science fiction reads have been hit or miss. So this is something I feel pretty sure that I will like at least some parts of. If you're not familiar with the Expanse series, it is set in space, of course, following a attack on a ice mining ship that has escalated tensions between those living in colonies in the asteroid belt known as the Belters and the inner planets. That's Earth, Mars, and the lunar colony. And they have been kind of like in a bit of a standoff, kind of a Cold War. And this attack on this ice mining ship kind of blows everything up. In the first book, we follow two characters who are kind of caught in that crossfire. And then at the 50% mark of that book, everything gets turned on its head with the introduction of an alien virus. And that's really when things took off for me. So I'm really excited to get into the second installment. For my new release selection, I have chosen A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen. And this is a Nordic fantasy with maybe some romance in there, following a young woman who is trapped in a marriage with a bloodthirsty king. And she wants nothing more than to answer the call of the gods while also catching the eye of her husband's son. So this could be really, really interesting. I have never read Danielle L. Jensen before, but I have heard really great things about her writing and this premise. I've been trying to read more Nordic fantasy lately, so this is definitely high on my priority list. For my free choice, I am so excited to finally have an excuse to pick up Gideon the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir. This is huge in the sci-fi fantasy sphere, so you've probably heard about it, but if you haven't, this follows a woman named Gideon who is kind of enslaved to this powerful house, and she is coerced into joining up with the leader of this house to join a competition for power. That's really all I know about it, other than the kind of selling point I've heard said across the internet: lesbian necromancers in space, which got it. I'm in already. And I also know that the narrative style can be kind of confusing and deliberately misleading, and it doesn't really hold your hand or overly explain things. And I think that could be really interesting. I've heard nothing but great things about this series, and I've been looking for it and looking for it and looking for it at Half Price Books, which is my preferred bookstore, but I finally caved and just got it at Barnes & Noble, the first 3 books in the series, and I can't wait to finally sink my teeth into this series. And now it is my favorite part of every TBR video, my random draw from my TBR Mimic. If you're new here, I keep a spreadsheet of every book that I own. That's physically, ebooks, and audiobooks, and a while back I assigned each of these books a random number. And I put all of those numbers, all the ones that I haven't read before, on a little slip of paper in here, and this is what I'll draw from. Last month, I went a step further and added all of the books I currently have out on Kindle Unlimited, just to give myself an incentive to read more of those books. So we are going to do a random draw. As you can see, I am mixing it up right now. And I always like to try and get one from the bottom. So here we go. And let's see what we have. Okay, this is number 109. Now let's see what number 109 corresponds to on my spreadsheet. Oh no, okay. So 109 shouldn't have been in there. That is Prince of Secrets by A.J. Lancaster. That's the second book in the Stariel series. So we are going to do another draw, and we'll just get rid of 109. Okay, let's try again. Hopefully not knocking over my camera equipment. That would be bad. All right, what's down here? Oh, there's 2. Okay, let's see what this one is. See, that's the problem with doing a TBR that is also in the jar, is that I'll sometimes draw ones that I've already read. This one is this one is number 16. So that's going to be at the top of the list. Okay. This one is The Pariah by Anthony Ryan. This is one of those ebooks that I bought because it was on sale for 99 cents and I know nothing about it. So let me pull up the Goodreads. Okay, born into the troubled kingdom of Albermain, Alwyn's scribe is raised as an outlaw, quick of wit and deft of blade. Alwyn is content with the freedom of the woods and the comradeship of his fellow thieves, but an act of betrayal sets him on a new path, one of blood and vengeance, which eventually leads him to a soldier's life in the king's army. It says epic fantasy, dark fantasy, science fantasy, nice and long at 600 pages. So yeah, so that is my random read. See, this is why the random draw is so interesting, because it is a complete mix of everything that I have and things that I bought probably years and years ago and didn't even think about again, especially those Kindle books. And this is something I never would have thought of to pick for myself if I, constructing my TBR in any other way. So The Pariah by Anthony Ryan, that is going to be the 6th book on this TBR. And if I manage to finish all of those 6 books, I have a 7th stretch goal, which I mentioned at the beginning is a reread. I'm trying to do more rereads this year, trying to refresh myself on some series that I started many, many years ago and just never got back to. I am a chronic starter and abandoner of series, even if I loved the first entries. So for this month's reread, I am going to be reading Assassin's Apprentice. And the reason I've chosen this book is for 2 reasons. Number 1, I recently just got these physical copies and I would love to annotate them. And the other reason is I really want to read, I really loved Assassin's Apprentice. I gave it 5 stars when I read it, but that was like 5 years ago. And so even though I feel like I have a pretty good grasp of the story, I would just like to, again, annotate it and just give my little bit of a refresher so that I can go ahead and pick up Royal Assassin sometime this year. This is the shortest installment of that trilogy, so I feel like this is a good start for this reread category. Again, not something I am prioritizing. This is if I get everything else on my TBR read. And that is everything that I have for you guys today. Which one of these books are you most excited for me to read? Which ones are your favorites? And which ones do you think I wouldn't like as much? Please let me know in the comments. As always, if you like my content and want to support the channel, please like and subscribe. It is so appreciated. For my next video, I will have my April Cozy Reset. Please look forward to it and I'll see you then.